Voters believe it is inappropriate for teachers or school personnel to discuss gender identity with children in kindergarten through third grade. Well, of course it is. Everyone thinks that. So if there was ever a law that accurately reflected public opinion, which should matter in a democracy, this was the law. But across the country, in the state of California, Bob Iger was watching, and Bob Iger didn't like it. Bob Iger is the 71-year-old former head of Disney. He's a bundler for Hillary Clinton. He's got some free time and strong political views, so he promptly tweeted the Florida law was immoral somehow. In an interview later with CNN with Chris Wallace, Iger explained that preventing teachers from promoting gender reassignment surgery to kindergartners was, quote, harmful to children. Iger never explained how this was harmful, but it didn't matter. Over at Disney headquarters, his remarks caused huge problems for the company's new CEO, Bob Chapek. Now, by all accounts, Bob Chapek is not especially political. He's not an activist. He's a marketing guy. So his first instinct was not to get involved, not to comment on what was happening in Florida. And that seemed wise given how much at stake Disney has in Florida. They own a theme park in Orlando, you may have heard. That's an enormous physical asset that cannot be loaded on a truck and moved. So maybe don't mess with Florida. As Chapek put it in a memo, quote, corporate statements do very little to change outcomes or minds. He wrote that on March 7th, explaining why Disney planned to take a pass on this controversy because they make movies, not laws. But Bob Chapek's employees had other ideas. Whipped into a frenzy by their former boss, Bob Iger, Disney staffers demanded action immediately. And then, because he is weak and not especially bright, Bob Chapek caved to their demands. He agreed to hold a town hall with aggrieved Disney employees who wanted him somehow to take control of the Florida legislature. Here's how that went.
I hope you've all read my most recent note, in which I pledged to be a better ally for the LGBTQ+ community, apologize for not being the ally that you needed me to be, and committed to ensuring that our company lives up to its values. Your words have made a real impact on me. I understand that we've made mistakes and the pain that those mistakes have caused. And I know that our silence wasn't just about the bill in Florida, but about every time an individual or institution that should have stood up for this community did not. I want to thank the LGBTQIA+ Advisory Council.
Hey, Bob, what does LGBTQIA stand for? You have no freaking clue. That's not the interesting part. The interesting part of what you just heard was, your words have made a real impact on me. In other words, you now have full control over my entire central nervous system. You own my brain. Do with me what you will. And they did. Bob Chapek soon reversed his position, Disney's position, completely. Going forward, not only did the Disney Corporation fervently disagree with the law the Florida legislature had passed, according to Bob Chapek, Disney had decided, our goal as a company, said Bob Chapek, is for this law to be repealed by the legislature or struck down in the courts, and we remain committed to supporting the national and state organizations working to achieve that. Whoa! What? You thought it was an entertainment company, but no. From its headquarters in Los Angeles, the Disney Corporation had now decided it runs the state of Florida. So for people who want to defend democracy, which is a system in which voters get to govern themselves, this was quite a departure. This is oligarchy, corporate CEOs deciding what the laws should be. Yeah, that's their new position. But in the meantime, Disney employees set about trying to undermine the intent of Florida's law. If teachers could no longer promote transgenderism to kindergartners, Disney planned to step into the breach and do it themselves. Here's internal footage from Disney obtained by journalist Chris Rufo.
Last summer, we removed all of the gendered greetings in relationship to our live spiels. So we no longer say ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We've provided training for all of our cast members in relationship to that. So now they know it's hello everyone or hello friends.
Oh, so it's no more boys and girls. Disney World is now non-binary. Okay, that's the diversity and inclusion lady. You're not surprised. What is surprising is that the head of a publicly held company like Disney would announce in public that he's in charge of a state that we thought was run by the voters of that state. Well, in Florida, Ron Desantis noticed this. He's the elected governor, and he decided to find out, how does the system work? He decided to test democracy. So during a special session of the Florida legislature this week, Desantis led an effort to strip Disney of what turned out to be a remarkable set of special perks that company had enjoyed for more than 50 years. You were not treated like Disney is treated in Florida. You have never been treated that well. So after the special session, no more will Disney World operate as its own independent country within the state of Florida. Yes, that's how they were governed, by themselves. And now, going forward, Disney is going to have to pay its taxes. Oh, wow, just like everybody else. Now, if you've lived in this country for more than, say, 5 years, ask yourself, what's the political party that has always told you big companies should pay their taxes? Corporate tax breaks are bad. Well, of course, that's always been the Democratic Party. So you would imagine the Democrats in Florida would applaud a move like this. When was the last time you heard liberals complain about stripping tax breaks from big business? Never before in history. It's never happened. And yet it just did happen. These are Democrats in the Florida legislature. Notice they are on the verge of tears as they learn that the Disney Corporation might have to pay taxes.
The clerk will...
No. You may have sensed that the Democratic Party over the last decade or so has been captured by corporate interests. But you never thought that you would hear on the floor of a state legislature Democrats scream with anguish at the idea that a big company might have to pay its taxes. Unbelievable, but now very clear. What's going on here? Well, there are a lot of things. Here's one. Disney spends millions of dollars electing lawmakers in the state of Florida, but those lawmakers couldn't do their job in this case. They couldn't act on Disney's behalf. The law passed, and Desantis signed it into law this afternoon. And that's going to cost the Disney Corporation a ton of money, which in turn may mean less money for the Florida Democrats you just saw shrieking in the video. So there was some self-interest involved here. But it wasn't just that, because it wasn't just Democratic office holders who were upset by the idea that an elected governor might be more powerful than an unelected corporation headquartered across the continent. The media were very upset too, very upset. Watch this.
If Ron DeSantis could pass an anti-Muslim bill for the state of Florida, he would. If he could pass an anti-CRT, if he could say it's illegal to say you're black, I'm pretty sure the guy would try it.
I mean, look, DeSantis has, this is a playbook out of Putin, and we saw where this goes.
It's very Soviet, and it's weird how Republicans, they keep tacking back to the old Soviet Union, and they seem to want to mimic the things that the new Soviet Union, meaning Vladimir Putin, is doing.
And even in our conversations about DeSantis, it's about how well they're serving him. The truth is, dehumanization as a tactic for politics is from war. Dehumanization is it's a tactic. It's being used right now. The Russians get their soldiers to rape children by dehumanizing them. Dehumanization as a practice is a tactic of war.
So just to be clear, and by the way, there's clearly some kind of inverse IQ test going on in the hiring department over at MSNBC. But here are the new rules. If you would like a big publicly held corporation to pay its taxes, then you're a child rapist. Obviously, you're a racist. You're like Putin, which means you're a fascist. But you know what else you are? According to Joy Reid, you're a communist. Ron DeSantis is, quote, taking us back to the Soviet Union. You're a communist if you want the company to pay its taxes. Now, Joy Reid went to Harvard, so we're not going to disagree with her. But we did feel a moral obligation to check that fact because it's a heavy claim. So joining us tonight to confirm or deny these charges is Comrade Ron DeSantis, who is also the governor of Florida. Governor, thanks so much for coming on tonight. So I can't tell whether you're a racist, a communist, a fascist for wanting a big publicly held corporation to pay its taxes. How would you describe yourself?
Well, it's interesting, Tucker. Not only pay taxes, I mean, this company had a deal unlike any company or any individual in all of the state of Florida and probably anywhere in the United States. They were self-governing. They had extraordinary powers. They could build nuclear power plants. They didn't have to go through permitting processes, obviously a lot of tax benefits. And so that's just inappropriate. And it's certainly inappropriate when you look, as you, I think, did a great job pointing out, they pledged themselves to mobilize their considerable corporate resources out of the coffers of this Burbank, California-based corporation to overturn the rights of parents in the state of Florida and effectively commandeer our democratic process. And so that obviously is something that we very much objected to. And then you also have those videos that you showed where you have all these higher-ups in Disney talking about how it was their intent to inject sexuality in the programming that goes to young kids. I got a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old at home, Tucker. I want them to be able to watch cartoons without having this stuff jammed down their throats. And so it was appropriate to have done this originally, 3 years ago, whatever, but it's certainly appropriate to make them live under the same laws as everybody else in the state of Florida.
Well, yeah, and it's a little weird coming from people who devote their programming to defending, quote, democracy. So you've been elected by the voters of Florida. You're standing for election very soon in November, and we'll see how you do. But you're a product of democracy. Bob Chapek and Bob Iger were elected by nobody, so why wouldn't democracy defenders be on the side of the legislative process over corporate fiat?
Because I think what the left has come to is all they want to see is power exercised in advance of their leftist agenda. So yes, they used to be hostile to big corporations because I think they perceive those corporations as being apolitical and that they wouldn't support their agenda. Now they figured out that they can try to subcontract out their leftism to some of these big corporations, and some of the executives will cave to the woke mob, and then they'll basically do the left's dirty work. Tucker, they're not going to win elections in Florida if they're actually running on injecting transgender ideology into second-grade classrooms, and they know that. So their hope was getting Disney involved in that would somehow get me to back down from signing the bill. Well, that was a bad judgment in their part because, of course, we weren't going to back down an inch.
It's a little weird because there are a bunch of Republican governors in the country. You're actually a Republican governor that sits over one of the most evenly divided states. It's a Republican state, but just barely. Overwhelmingly Republican states in the West, like Utah, their governors have done nothing like this. They haven't fought back at all. Why is that, do you think?
You know, I don't know, Tucker. I mean, I think the way I view it is you have the media class, you have kind of the Twitter class, you have some of these people, and that's a distorted view of reality. And you actually need to talk to people who aren't always on those outlets and listen to what they have to say. And I can tell you, they do not want this woke garbage in our society. They don't want women to be denied the opportunity to participate in sports. They don't want to see their kids go to kindergarten and have this stuff jammed down their throats. And so I just stand with the people. I stand against a lot of media and a lot of big corporations. But at the end of the day, I think we have the facts and the strength in numbers on our side.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Thank you. It was great to see you tonight. Governor Desantis of Florida.
Thank you.
So the pandemic is over. The vaccine